The emergency alarm echoed through the halls of Coalition Command Station. Admiral Veltara's 4 eyes focused on the red warning lights flashing across her command screen. Her tentacles moved quickly over the controls as she read the incoming message. "Commander Zenth, report," she called to her second-in-command. The tall, blue-skinned officer turned from his station. "Admiral, we have received a priority distress signal from the research vessel Harmony's Edge. The ship is caught in a gravitational anomaly." Veltara felt her heart sink. Harmony's Edge was one of the Coalition's most important research ships. It carried 847 of the galaxy's best scientists from 12 different species. They had been studying ancient star formations in the outer rim when disaster struck. "Show me the details," Veltara ordered. The main screen lit up with star charts and data streams. Commander Zenth pointed to a red dot in empty space. The ship was pulled into the gravity well of a rogue black hole system. "Our long-range sensors show they are slowly being dragged toward the event horizon." Veltara studied the numbers. Her military training told her what the data meant. The ship had maybe 20 standard cycles before it would be torn apart by tidal forces. After that, nothing could save the crew. "How long would it take our fastest rescue ships to reach them?" she asked. Zenth checked his calculations twice before answering. 18 standard cycles, Admiral. Even if we launched immediately." The command center fell silent. Everyone understood what those numbers meant. By the time Coalition rescue ships arrived, Harmony's Edge would already be lost. 847 of the galaxy's brightest minds would die in the cold darkness of space. Veltara closed her eyes and thought about the families who would receive the terrible news, the Thessian children who would never see their parents again, the Centauri, elders who had sent their best students on this mission, the young Kelvari scientists who had just started their careers. "Admiral," came a voice from the communications station, "we are receiving requests from several member worlds. They want to know about rescue operations." Veltara opened her eyes. She had to tell them the truth. There was no rescue operation that could work. The laws of physics were clear. No ship in the Coalition fleet was fast enough to reach Harmony's Edge in time. "Prepare a statement for the member worlds," she said, quietly. "Tell them we will attempt a rescue mission, but the chances of success are extremely low." As she spoke those words, another voice cut through the command center. "Admiral Veltara, this is Commander Juan of the Human Colonial Defense Force. We have been monitoring the emergency channels." Veltara's tentacles froze over her controls. The humans were the newest members of the Coalition. They had joined only 5 cycles ago after first contact. Most species still considered them dangerous primitives from a death world called Earth. "Commander Juan, we appreciate your concern, but this situation requires..." "Admiral, with respect." "We would like to volunteer for the rescue mission," Juan interrupted. "The Human Defense Force has ships that can reach Harmony's Edge in time." The command center erupted in shocked whispers. Commander Zenth stepped closer to Veltara. "Admiral, the humans have never attempted a rescue operation of this scale. Their methods are unconventional." Veltara knew what Zenth meant. Human military doctrine was famous throughout the galaxy for all the wrong reasons. They ignored safety protocols. They took risks that would kill any other species. Their ships were built like weapons instead of exploration vessels. "Commander Juan," Veltara said carefully, "our best scientists have calculated that a rescue mission would require 17 cycles of travel time. Even our fastest ships cannot break the laws of physics." There was a pause before Juan responded. "Admiral, humans have a saying. Rules are made to be broken. Our fleet can be at Harmony's Edge in 12 cycles." Zenth made a choking sound. 12 cycles? That is impossible. The human ships would have to travel at speeds that would tear them apart. "Maybe," Juan said simply. "But 847 people will definitely die if we do nothing." Veltara studied the star charts again. She ran the numbers through her head. The human claim was mathematically impossible. Their ships would have to accelerate past safe limits. They would have to navigate through dangerous space. The chances of success were almost zero, but almost zero was better than definitely zero. Commander: Juan, I must ask you to understand the situation clearly, Veltara said. This rescue mission will likely result in the loss of your ships and crews. The Coalition cannot ask you to sacrifice human lives for— Admiral, Juan interrupted again. You are not asking us. We are volunteering. This is what humans do. Veltara looked around the command center. Her officers were staring at their screens with worried expressions. She knew what they were thinking. The humans were going to get themselves killed trying to do the impossible. Commander Juan, what exactly are you proposing? We have a rescue fleet ready to launch immediately. 3 ships with our best crews. We will use creative navigation methods to reach Harmony's edge before it crosses the point of no return. Commander Zenth leaned over to Veltara. Admiral, the humans might make the situation worse. If their ships are destroyed during the rescue attempt, we will lose even more lives. Veltara understood Zenth's concerns. But she also understood something else. The crew of Harmony's Edge was already dead unless someone did something impossible. The humans specialized in doing impossible things. Commander: Juan, I am granting permission for your rescue mission, she announced. May the stars guide you safely. Thank you, Admiral. The Human Defense Force will not let you down. The communication ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Veltara stared at the star charts showing the location of Harmony's Edge. In a few hours, human ships would launch on a mission that every other species considered suicide. Admiral, Zenth said quietly, should we prepare backup rescue ships? Veltara shook her head. There are no backup ships, Commander. If the humans fail, those 847 scientists will die. If the humans succeed— She paused, trying to imagine how the humans might actually pull off such a rescue. If the humans succeed, we will have to rewrite our understanding of what is possible. As alarms continued to sound throughout Coalition Command, Veltara sent a prayer to the ancient stars. She prayed that the humans were as crazy as everyone believed, because sometimes crazy was exactly what the universe needed. The countdown began. Somewhere in human space, ships were preparing for launch. Ships that would either save 847 lives or add their own crews to the list of the dead. But for the first time since the distress signal arrived, Veltara felt something she had not expected to feel: hope. Captain Jiho stood on the bridge of Soul's Fury, watching his crew prepare for launch. The massive dreadnought hummed with power as its engines came online. Through the view screen, he could see the 2 destroyer escorts taking their positions. Busan Rising and Daigu's hammer looked small next to his ship, but they were just as deadly. "Captain," called Lieutenant Sung-ho from the navigation station. "All ships report ready for departure." Jiho nodded. "Dr. Mina, are the calculations complete?" The chief physicist looked up from her console. Her face was pale, but her eyes were determined. "The math works, Captain. Barely, but it works." "That's all we need," Jiho said. "Open a channel to the fleet." The communications officer activated the ship-wide broadcast. Jiho's voice echoed through all 3 vessels. "This is Captain Jiho. In 10 minutes, we will begin the fastest rescue mission in galactic history. We are going to save 847 people who everyone else has given up for dead." He paused, looking around the bridge at his crew. These were some of the best officers in the Human Defense Force. They had volunteered for this mission knowing they might not come back. "The plan is simple," Jiho continued. "We will accelerate to maximum speed and use the black hole's gravity to slingshot around it. This will give us enough velocity to reach Harmony's Edge before it's too late." On the Coalition monitoring station, Admiral Veltara watched the human ships with growing concern. "Commander Zenth, are you seeing this data?" Zenth checked his readings twice. Admiral, the human ships are accelerating at rates that should crush their crews. No organic being can survive those forces. And yet their life signs remain stable, Veltara observed. How is this possible? Dr. Thurian, the Coalition's leading expert on human physiology, stepped forward. Admiral, humans evolved on a death world. Their bones are denser than ours. Their muscles are stronger. Their bodies can handle forces that would kill most species. On Sol's Fury, Dr. Mina felt the acceleration pressing her into her chair. The ship's gravity compensators were working at maximum power, but she could still feel the incredible forces acting on her body. Around her, the human crew continued their work as if nothing unusual was happening. "Captain," she called out, "we are approaching the outer edge of the black hole's gravity well." Acknowledged. All ships, prepare for gravitational assist maneuver. The 3 human vessels approached the black hole in a tight formation. Their engines burned at dangerous levels, pushing them faster and faster. Behind them, the Coalition monitoring station tracked their progress with disbelief. "They're actually doing it," Commander Zenth whispered. "They're using the black hole like a carnival ride." Admiral Veltara watched the tactical display showing the human ship's path. The vessels were diving toward the black hole at impossible speeds. Any normal ship would be torn apart by tidal forces long before reaching the slingshot point. "Dr. Thurian, explain to me how human ships can survive this," she demanded. The doctor pulled up technical specifications on his tablet. "Admiral, human ships are not built like ours. We design our vessels for comfort and efficiency. Humans design theirs to survive war." He showed her images of Sol's Fury's construction. "Look at this hull plating. It's 3 times thicker than our standard designs. Their internal structure uses redundant support beams. These ships are built to take damage and keep fighting." On Busan Rising, Captain Woojin gripped his command chair as the ship shook under gravitational stress. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, but his crew kept working. "Engineering, report," he called out. "Hull integrity holding at 87%, came the reply. "Engines are running hot, but within acceptable limits." "Acceptable limits for humans," muttered the Coalition observer who was monitoring the transmission. "Their acceptable limits would kill anyone else." Dr. Mina watched her calculations come to life on the main screen. The black hole's gravity was pulling the human ships into a tight curve around its edge. The vessels were moving so fast that time itself was starting to slow down relative to the rest of the universe. "Captain, we are reaching maximum velocity," she announced. "In 30 seconds, we will break free of the gravity well." "All ships, prepare for slingshot maneuver," Jiho ordered. The 3 human vessels whipped around the black hole like stones from a slingshot. Their speed increased beyond anything the Coalition had thought possible. As they broke free from the gravity well, they were moving at nearly 15% of light speed. "Impossible," breathed Commander Zenth. "No ship can travel that fast, in normal space." "Human ships can," Admiral Veltara said quietly. "We have underestimated them." On Sol's Fury, alarms were ringing throughout the ship. The engines were running far beyond their design specifications. The hull was groaning under stress. But the ship held together through pure human engineering and stubbornness. "Dr. Mina, how long until we reach Harmony's edge?" Jiho asked. "At current speed, 11 hours and 43 minutes, she replied. "We will arrive with 12 minutes to spare." The bridge crew erupted in cheers. They had done the impossible. They had broken the laws of physics through sheer determination and clever engineering. But Captain Jiho did not celebrate yet. Getting to Harmony's edge was only half the mission. They still had to rescue 847 people from a ship that was being torn apart by a black hole. "All ships, maintain current speed," he ordered. "Begin preparations for rescue operations." Throughout the human fleet, crew members checked their equipment and reviewed emergency procedures. They had trained for situations like this, but nothing could fully prepare them for what they were about to attempt. On the Coalition monitoring station, Admiral Veltara stared at the tactical display in amazement. The human ships were actually going to make it to Harmony's Edge in time. "Commander Zenth, open a channel to all Coalition vessels in the area," she ordered. "Channel open, Admiral. All Coalition ships, this is Admiral Veltara. Change course to rendezvous with the human rescue fleet. We may not be able to help with the rescue, but we can provide medical support afterward." As she gave the order, Veltara realized something important. The humans had not just broken the laws of physics, they had broken the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. And in a few hours, 847 scientists would be alive because 3 human ships had decided that impossible was just another word for challenging. The human fleet raced through space at speeds that should have been impossible. Captain Wu Jin watched the star field blur past the view screen of Busan Rising as his ship pushed its engines beyond safe limits. Warning lights flashed across his bridge, but he ignored them. "Captain," called Engineer Nari from her station, "the engines are running at 115% of maximum rated power. We're going to burn them out if we keep this up." Wu Jin glanced at the countdown timer on his screen. "How long can we maintain this speed?" "Maybe 3 more hours before we start losing engine pods," Nari replied. "After that, we'll have to reduce speed or risk a complete shutdown." "The rescue window is in 2 hours and 40 minutes, Wu Jin said. "We can make it. On the Coalition." Monitoring station. Dr. Thurian studied the sensor readings from the human ships with fascination and horror. "Admiral, I am detecting multiple hull microfractures across all 3 vessels. Their ships are literally being shaken apart." "Admiral." Veltara watched the tactical display showing the human fleet's progress. "And yet they continue at full speed. Why are they not slowing down?" "Because slowing down means failure," Commander Zenth observed. "Humans seem to prefer death to failure." The truth was more complex than the Coalition officers understood. Aboard Soul's Fury, Captain Jiho was making constant calculations about risk versus reward. Every decision balanced the lives of his crew against the lives of the people they were trying to save. "Dr. Mina, what's our latest arrival time?" he asked. The physicist checked her instruments. "We will reach Harmony's Edge with 12 minutes and 37 seconds before it crosses the point of no return." "That's cutting it close, Lieutenant," Sungho observed from the navigation station. "Close is all we need," Jiho replied. "Prepare the ship for emergency maneuvers." As the human fleet approached the disaster zone, they encountered their first major obstacle. The space around the black hole was filled with debris from destroyed asteroids and cosmic dust. At their current speed, even a small particle could punch through their hull like a bullet. "Captain," called the sensor operator, "we have a debris field ahead, thousands of objects, some as large as shuttlecraft." Captain Wu Jin studied the navigation display. The debris field stretched for millions of kilometers. Going around it would add precious minutes to their travel time, minutes they could not afford. "All ships, this is Wu Jin. We're going through the field. Navigation, plot the safest course." "Sir, there is no safe course at our current speed," his navigation officer replied. "Then plot the least dangerous one." On Dagu's hammer, Captain Minji received Wu Jin's transmission and shook her head. "Engineering, bring all defensive systems online. We're about to thread a needle at 15% of light speed." The 3 human ships plunged into the debris field like missiles. Their point defense systems worked frantically, destroying the larger pieces of debris with laser fire. Smaller fragments bounced off their reinforced hulls, sending shock waves through the ships. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported the damage control officer aboard Soul's Fury. "Emergency bulkheads are sealing the section." Captain Jiho felt the ship shudder as another piece of debris struck home. "How many people in that section?" 12 crew members, sir. They've evacuated to safety." "Good. Continue course." Admiral Veltara watched the human ships navigate the debris field with amazement. They are flying through that field as if it were empty space. How are they even seeing the obstacles at that speed? Dr. Thurian checked his readings. Their computer. Systems are processing data at rates I did not think possible. They are calculating thousands of trajectory changes per second. And their crews are actually implementing those changes, Commander Zenth added. The reaction times required are beyond what most species can achieve. What the Coalition officers did not understand was that humans had been playing high-speed games for thousands of years. From ancient ball sports to modern combat simulations, human brains were trained to process rapid visual information and respond instantly. Engineer Nari watched her engine readouts with growing concern. The constant course changes were putting additional stress on the propulsion systems. Captain, we're losing efficiency. The engines can't handle these rapid acceleration changes much longer. How much longer do we need them to handle it? Wu Jin asked. 43 minutes until we clear the debris field. Then they'll handle it for 43 minutes. It was a statement of pure human stubbornness. The engines would work because they had to work. Failure was not acceptable. On Sol's Fury, Dr. Mina tracked their progress through the debris field. The ship was taking damage, but not enough to stop them. Captain, we are 70% through the field. Estimated time to clear, 31 minutes. Acknowledged. All sections, damage. Report. The reports came in from throughout the ship. Hull breaches on 3 decks. 2 backup generators offline. The main computer running at reduced capacity. But the ship was still flying, still fighting toward their destination. Sir, called the communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from Harmony's Edge. On screen. The view screen flickered, showing the bridge of the research vessel. Captain Kyung, a tall Thessian with blue-green skin, stared out at them with large, frightened eyes. Human vessels, this is Captain Kyung of Harmony's Edge. We have been monitoring your approach. Your ships appear to be taking severe damage. Captain Kyung, this is Captain Jiho. We're here to get you out. What's your current status? We have 847 people aboard. Our engines are offline, and we are being pulled steadily toward the black hole. We estimate 14 minutes before we cross the event horizon. Jiho checked his navigation display. We'll be there with 2 minutes to spare. Captain Kyung's expression showed disbelief. Captain Jiho, you cannot possibly evacuate 847 people in 2 minutes. It would take hours to transfer that many beings safely. Captain, humans don't believe in safely. We believe in successfully. The transmission ended, leaving Captain Kyung staring at a blank screen. Around her, the Thessian crew exchanged worried glances. They had studied human military doctrine. Humans were famous for achieving impossible victories through methods that killed most of their own forces. Meanwhile, the human fleet burst out of the debris field like arrows shot from a bow. Their ships were battered and scarred, but they were still flying. Dead ahead lay their target, a massive research vessel slowly spiraling towards certain death. All ships, this is Captain Jiho. We have visual contact with Harmony's Edge. Begin rescue preparations immediately. Throughout the human fleet, crew members checked their emergency equipment and reviewed evacuation procedures. They had trained for rapid rescues, but never on this scale. 847 people in 2 minutes was beyond challenging. It was mathematically impossible. But humans had a long history of proving mathematics wrong. Captain Kyung stared at her sensor readings in disbelief. 3 human warships were approaching Harmony's Edge at impossible speeds. Her science officer, a young Centauri named Velox, looked up from his console with wide eyes. Captain, the human, ships are not slowing down. They are going to overshoot us if they maintain current velocity. Kyung had studied human military tactics during her time at the Coalition Academy. She knew humans had a reputation for accepting massive casualties to achieve their objectives. The phrase, acceptable losses, appeared frequently in human battle reports. How many people can their ships carry? She asked. Velox checked the technical specifications in the ship's database. The dreadnought can accommodate perhaps 50 additional personnel in emergency conditions. The destroyers may be 20 each. Total capacity for 90 people. Kyung felt her hearts sink. The humans were risking their lives to save less than 10% of her crew. It was a noble gesture, but it meant 757 people would still die. "Open a channel to the human fleet," she ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of Soul's Fury. Captain Jiho stood at the center of the command deck, his face calm despite the chaos around him. "Captain Kyung, this is Captain Jiho. We are beginning our approach. Please prepare your crew for immediate evacuation." "Captain Jiho, I appreciate your courage, but your ships cannot carry all of my people. Perhaps you should focus on evacuating our most essential personnel." There was a pause before Jiho responded. "Captain, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're not here to save some of your crew. We're here to save all of them." Kyung exchanged glances with her officers. "Captain, that is impossible. You have 3 ships with limited capacity. We have 847 people aboard this vessel." "Captain Kyung, you're thinking like a Thessian. We're thinking like humans. Trust me, we've got this." The transmission ended, leaving Kyung staring at a blank screen. Around her, the bridge crew worked frantically to prepare for what they assumed would be a partial evacuation. They began compiling lists of essential personnel and scientific data that must be saved. "Captain," called the ship's doctor, an elderly Kelvari named Hexen, "we have prepared the children and injured for priority evacuation." Kyung nodded sadly. At least some would survive to tell the story of Harmony's Edge. On Soul's Fury, Captain Jiho watched his ships take position around the research vessel. "All ships, execute emergency docking procedures. Dr. Mina, extend all evacuation bridges." "Sir, we only have 4 docking bridges," Dr. Mina replied. "Then extend everything that can serve as an evacuation route. Emergency airlocks, cargo bays, maintenance hatches. If it can connect to their ship, use it." On Busan Rising, Captain Wu Jin was having the same conversation with his crew. "Engineering. I want every possible connection to that ship. Use the torpedo tubes if you have to." Engineer Nari looked up from her console. "Sir, using torpedo tubes for personnel evacuation is against all safety regulations." "Nari, in about 10 minutes, safety regulations are going to be the least of our problems." The human ships moved with precision that defied their battered condition. Soul's Fury positioned itself along the main hull of Harmony's Edge, extending multiple docking bridges simultaneously. Busan Rising attached to the research vessel's aft section, while Daigu's hammer connected to the forward laboratories. Admiral Veltara watched the docking maneuvers from the Coalition monitoring station. "Commander Zenth, how many connection points do you count?" Zenth studied the tactical display. "I count 17 separate connections, Admiral. The humans are using methods I have never seen before." 17 connections for 847 people, Dr. Thurian calculated. That would require moving 50 people through each connection point in just a few minutes. "Impossible," Commander Zenth stated flatly. On Harmony's Edge, Captain Kyung felt the ship shudder as the human vessels attached themselves like parasites. Emergency lights flashed throughout the corridors as multiple airlocks opened simultaneously. "All crew, this is Captain Kyung. Report to your designated evacuation stations immediately. This is not a drill." The ship's intercom crackled with the voice of a human officer. "Attention, crew of Harmony's Edge. This is Commander Do-Yun of the Human Defense Force. We are here to get everyone off this ship safely. Please proceed to the nearest human evacuation point in an orderly fashion." Dr. Hexen, the Kelvari doctor, made his way to what had been the main docking bay. He expected to find a single evacuation bridge leading to the human ship. Instead, he found 3 separate connections and teams of human soldiers organizing the evacuation. "Doctor, this way, please," called a human sergeant named Yuna. "We have medical facilities prepared on Soul's Fury, but the children and injured should go first," Dr. Hexen protested. Everyone goes, Doctor. No exceptions. In the research labs, Centauri scientist Velox watched in amazement as human crew members moved through the ship with military efficiency. They were not selecting people for evacuation. They were evacuating everyone. This is impossible, he muttered to himself. They cannot move this many people in such a short time. Lieutenant Inho overheard him. Professor, humans have been moving large numbers of people quickly for thousands of years. We call it a military evacuation. The trick is not to think about it too much. Throughout Harmony's Edge, similar scenes were playing out. Human evacuation teams moved with practiced efficiency, guiding alien crew members to the various connection points. They carried those who were injured, helped the elderly, and organized the chaos into manageable streams of movement. Captain Kyung found herself in the main corridor watching the evacuation in progress. Humans were everywhere, directing traffic, carrying equipment, and maintaining order. They moved with an urgency that was both frightening and inspiring. Captain Kyung, called Commander Do-Yun as he approached. We need you to help us coordinate with your crew. Some of them are resisting evacuation because they think we can't save everyone. Can you save everyone? Kyung asked directly. Do-Yun looked at her with the kind of certainty that only humans possessed. Captain, we didn't come all this way to save some of your people. We came to save all of them. The only question is whether they'll let us. As if to prove his point, a group of human soldiers jogged past, carrying a massive piece of scientific equipment between them. Behind them came a team escorting a group of Thessian researchers who looked bewildered but hopeful. How are you doing this? Kyung asked. Simple, Do-Yun replied. We're treating this like what it is. A military operation with civilian casualties that we refuse to accept. In human warfare, you don't leave people behind. Ever. The evacuation continued with mechanical precision. Humans had turned the rescue into an assembly line of salvation, moving people through 17 different routes as quickly as safety would allow, and sometimes a little faster than safety would allow. Captain Kyung realized something that would change her understanding of humans forever. They were not just risking their lives to save her crew. They were breaking every rule of space travel to ensure that not a single person would be left behind. It was madness. It was impossible. It was also the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Captain Jiho watched the countdown timer on his command screen. 3 minutes and 47 seconds remained before Harmony's Edge would cross the point of no return. Around him, his crew worked to disconnect their ship from the research vessel, while the evacuation teams made their final checks. Sir, called Lieutenant Sung-ho from the communication station. We have a problem. Section 12 is reporting that 37 people are still trapped. The corridor collapsed during the evacuation. Jiho felt his stomach drop. They had come so far, saved so many people only to face failure at the last moment. He studied the ship's layout on his tactical display. Section 12 was on the far side of Harmony's Edge, cut off by twisted metal and broken bulkheads. How long would it take to cut through the debris? He asked. Engineer Nari checked her calculations. At least 15 minutes with our best cutting. Equipment, sir. Maybe longer if we hit reinforced sections. Commander Do-Hyun appeared on the bridge, his uniform torn and dirty from the evacuation efforts. Captain, I've been reviewing the situation. We can evacuate those 37 people, but it will require volunteers to stay behind while we work. Explain, Jiho ordered. Sir, if we disconnect from Harmony's Edge now, we can escape with 810 people safely rescued. But those 37 in Section 12 will die when the ship crosses the event horizon. The bridge fell silent as everyone understood the terrible mathematics of the situation. Save 8 and 10 lives by abandoning 37, or risk 847 lives trying to save everyone. Captain Kyung stood near the back of the bridge, listening to the human officers discuss the impossible choice. In her years of command, she had faced many difficult decisions. but never one like this. "Captain Jiho," she said quietly, "you have already saved more lives than anyone thought possible. No one would blame you for—" "Captain Kyung," Jiho interrupted. "How many people did you have aboard your ship when we arrived?" 847, sir. "Then that's how many people we're taking home." Jiho turned to his crew. "Commander Do-hyun, organize a volunteer team to reach Section 12. Dr. Mina, calculate exactly how long we can stay connected before we all get pulled into the black hole." Dr. Mina worked frantically at her console. "Sir, if we maintain our current position for more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds, we will not have enough engine power to break free. That gives us 2 minutes to reach 37 people through collapsed sections," Do-hyun observed. "It's impossible." "Then we'll do the impossible," Jiho replied. Again, Commander Hwan's voice crackled over the communicator from Coalition. "Command, human vessels, this is Commander Hwan. We are monitoring your situation. Admiral Veltara orders you to disconnect immediately and save the people you have already rescued." Jiho looked at the countdown timer. 2 minutes and 51 seconds remained. "Commander Hwan, please inform Admiral Veltara that humans do not leave people behind. We will retrieve all personnel or die trying. Captain, that is an unacceptable risk to—" Jiho cut the transmission and turned to his volunteer team. "Do-hyun, take whoever you need and get those people out of Section 12. Commander Do-hyun assembled his team quickly. Lieutenant In-ho volunteered. Immediately followed by Medic Jisoo and Engineer Taemin, they were joined by 6 other crew members who had already proven themselves during the evacuation. "Sir," Taemin said as the team prepared their equipment, "the structural damage in Section 12 is severe. We'll need to cut through reinforced bulkheads with handheld plasma torches." "How long?" Do-hyun asked. 2 minutes if everything goes perfectly. 3 minutes if we hit complications." Do-hyun looked at the countdown timer. They had 2 minutes and 38 seconds before the ship would be lost forever. "Then everything will go perfectly." The volunteer team made their way through Harmony's edge toward Section 12. The ship groaned around them as the black hole's tidal forces began tearing it apart. Emergency lights flickered, and the artificial gravity failed in several corridors. "Move fast," Do-hyun called to his team. "This ship is coming apart. They—" reached the collapsed corridor in 43 seconds. The passage was blocked by a massive section of twisted metal that had been torn loose when the ship was caught by the black hole's gravity. "Taemin, start cutting," Do-hyun ordered. "Everyone else, clear debris as it falls." Engineer Taemin activated his plasma torch and began cutting through the metal barrier. Sparks flew as the superheated beam sliced through reinforced bulkheads. Behind the barrier, they could hear voices calling for help. "We're coming!" Lieutenant In-ho shouted back. "Stay calm and stay together." On the bridge of Seoul's Fury, Captain Jiho watched the countdown timer with growing tension. 1 minute and 57 seconds remained. His ship was connected to a vessel that was being pulled into a black hole, and 10 of his best people were risking their lives to save 37 strangers. "Sir," Dr. Mina called out, "we are approaching the point where our engines will not be able to break free. How much time?" 1 minute and 30 seconds, sir." Jiho activated his communicator. "Do-hyun, status report." "We're halfway through the barrier, Captain. Need another minute. You have 47 seconds. In Section 12, the volunteer team worked with desperate efficiency. Taemin's plasma torch cut through the metal while the others cleared debris. Sweat poured down their faces as the ship shook violently around them. "Almost through," Taemin called out. 30 more seconds." Behind the barrier, 37 researchers waited in darkness. They were scientists and doctors, teachers and engineers, people who had devoted their lives to expanding knowledge and helping others. Now they faced death because of a random encounter with a rogue black hole. "We can see light," called one of the trapped Centauri. "You're almost through." "Get everyone ready to move fast," Do-hyun shouted back. "We're going to have seconds, too. Get you out." On the bridge, the countdown timer showed 53 seconds remaining. Captain Jiho faced the hardest decision of his command career. Save his ship and crew by abandoning the rescue team, or risk everyone by waiting a few more seconds. "Captain," Dr. Mina said quietly, "we need to disconnect in 20 seconds or we will all die." Jiho stared at the timer. 20 seconds until he had to choose between saving some people and losing everyone. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. The plasma torch broke through the final section of barrier. "We're through!" Taemin called out. Commander Do-Yun dove through the opening as the trapped researchers rushed toward freedom. There was no time for orderly evacuation. People pushed and pulled each other through the narrow gap as the ship shook itself apart around them. "Go, go, go!" Lieutenant Inho shouted, helping elderly researchers through the opening. On the bridge, the countdown timer reached 0. The point where they should have disconnected came and went. Soul's fury was now committed to riding Harmony's edge into the black hole unless the rescue team reached safety in the next few seconds. "All personnel clear," Do-Yun reported over the communicator. "We're coming home." "Disconnect all docking bridges," Jiho ordered. "Emergency separation now." The human ships detached from Harmony's edge with explosive charges that sent them flying, away from the doomed research vessel. As they pulled away, everyone watched through the view screens as Harmony's edge began its final plunge toward the event horizon. They had saved 847 people. Every single person aboard the research vessel was now safe on human ships, but the cost had been higher than anyone expected. 3 human crew members had been exposed to fatal levels of radiation during the rescue. 2 ships had suffered critical damage that would take months to repair. And the entire human fleet was now dangerously close to the black hole with damaged engines and overloaded life support systems. The rescue was complete. Now they had to survive their own heroism. The 3 human ships pulled away from the dying research vessel with their precious cargo of 847 rescued scientists. But Captain Jiho knew their troubles were far from over. His fleet was damaged, overloaded, and dangerously close to the black hole that had just claimed Harmony's edge. "Dr. Mina, what's our situation?" he called out as alarms rang throughout Soul's fury. The physicist checked her instruments with growing concern. "Captain, we waited too long. We're still being pulled toward the black hole. Our engines are running at 93% efficiency due to radiation damage. Can we break free?" "Unknown, sir. The calculations are very close." On Busan Rising, Captain Woojin faced an even worse situation. His ship had taken the most damage during the evacuation, and now his engines were failing just when he needed them most. "Engineering report," he called to Nari. "Sir, we've lost engine pod 3 completely. Pod 2 is running at 60% power. We're not going to make it out of the gravity well with our current thrust." Woojin studied the tactical display showing his ship's trajectory. The numbers were clear. Busan Rising was going to be pulled back toward the black hole unless something changed quickly. "Captain Minji," he called over the fleet communication channel, "I need you to take our evacuees." On Daigu's hammer, Captain Minji understood immediately what Woojin was suggesting. "Negative. We're not leaving you behind." "Captain, my ship can't escape the gravity well. Yours can. Take our people and go." "Woojin, we've been friends since the academy. I'm not abandoning you now." Captain Jiho listened to the exchange between his captains and made a command decision. "All ships, this is Jiho. We're going home together or not at all. Minji, move your ship alongside Busan Rising. We're going to link our engines." It was an insane plan. Linking ships in a gravity well was dangerous under normal circumstances. Attempting it while being pulled toward a black hole was beyond reckless. "Sir," Dr. Mina protested, "linking our engines will put additional stress on our damaged systems. We could lose all 3 ships." "Dr. Mina, we already have all 3 ships. The question is whether we keep them or lose them." Throughout the human fleet, crew members worked frantically to prepare for the engine linkage. It was a maneuver they had practiced in training but never attempted under combat conditions. Engineer Nari pushed her damaged engines beyond their safe limits. "Captain, if we try to link engines now, The additional stress could cause a cascade, failure, and if we don't try, we definitely fall into the black hole, Wu Jin replied. I'll take possibly over definitely any day. On Soul's Fury, Captain Kyung watched the human crew prepare for their desperate maneuver. As a Thessian, she had been trained to calculate risks carefully and choose the safest option. The human approach to problem-solving still amazed her. Captain Jiho, she said, perhaps some of us should transfer to your ship to reduce the load on the damaged vessels. Captain Kyung, we have room for everyone. No one gets transferred and no one gets left behind. But the mathematics clearly show what's probable. Humans specialize in making the improbable happen. The three ships moved into formation with deadly precision. Soul's Fury took the center position, with Busan rising and Daigu's hammer moving alongside. Magnetic docking clamps extended between the vessels, creating a temporary link that would allow them to share engine power. All ships, engine linkage in 30 seconds, Jiho announced. This is going to be rough. Admiral Veltara watched the human maneuver from the Coalition monitoring station with a mixture of admiration and horror. Commander Zenth, are they actually attempting to link 3 damaged ships while escaping from a black hole? Yes, Admiral. It appears they are attempting the impossible again. And their chances of success? Dr. Thurian checked his calculations. Mathematically, Admiral, their chances are approximately 3%. But they're going to try anyway, Veltara observed. Humans always try anyway, Zenth replied. The engine linkage engaged with a series of mechanical clanks that echoed through all 3 ships. Suddenly, the damaged Busan Rising had access to the engine power of its sister ships, but the additional stress immediately showed its effects. Hull stress approaching critical levels, reported the damage control officer aboard Soul's Fury. Engine. Temperatures rising beyond safe limits, added Engineer Nari from Busan Rising. Magnetic clamps holding but barely, called Captain Minji from Daigu's hammer. The linked ships began their escape from the black hole's gravity well. Their combined engines burned at maximum power, fighting against forces that could crush planets. The hulls groaned under stress that would have destroyed any other vessels. Dr. Mina, are we gaining distance? Captain Jiho asked. Slowly, sir. Very slowly. We're moving away from the event horizon, but at this rate, it will take hours to reach safe distance. How long can the engines maintain this power level? Unknown, Captain. We're in uncharted territory. As if to emphasize her point, an explosion echoed through Busan Rising. Captain Wu Jin felt his ship shudder as emergency systems activated throughout the vessel. Nari, report, he called. Engine pod 2 just failed completely, sir. We're down to 1 functional engine. The linked ships continued their desperate escape while damage accumulated throughout the fleet. Hull plates buckled under stress. Emergency bulkheads sealed off damaged sections. The life support systems worked overtime to maintain breathable atmosphere for nearly 1,000 people. In the medical bay of Soul's Fury, Dr. Hexen worked alongside human medic Jisoo to treat the crew members who had been exposed to radiation. During the rescue, 3 humans were dying from exposure levels that would have killed any other species instantly. How are they still conscious? Dr. Hexen asked, as he watched the humans continue to function despite radiation poisoning. Humans are tough, Jisoo replied simply. We don't die easy. The medical team did everything they could, but the radiation exposure was too severe. Over the next hour, 3 human crew members died from injuries sustained while saving alien lives. They died knowing that 847 people were alive because of their sacrifice. Captain Jiho stood in the medical bay, looking down at the bodies of his fallen crew members. These were people who had volunteered for a mission that everyone knew was suicidal. They had given their lives so that strangers from other worlds could go home to their families. Captain, Dr. Mina called over the communicator, we're approaching the edge of the gravity well. We should be able to break free in another hour. Acknowledged, Jiho replied. Continue current course. As the human fleet slowly fought its way out of the black hole's grip, Word of their rescue mission spread throughout the galaxy. The impossible had become reality. Humans had saved 847 people from certain death at the cost of 3 of their own lives and massive damage to their ships. But for the humans, the mission was not yet complete. They still had to get everyone home safely. All ships, this is Captain Ji-ho, he announced over the fleet communication channel. We have broken free of the gravity well. Set course for Coalition Station Alpha. We're going home. The 3 battered ships, still linked together for mutual support, began their long journey back to civilization. Behind them, the black hole continued its ancient dance through space, having claimed 1 research vessel but been denied the lives of those who sailed in her. In the cargo bay of Soul's Fury, Captain Kyung sat with some of her rescued crew members. They were alive because humans had decided that impossible was just another word for challenging. "Captain," asked young Velox, "why did they risk everything to save us?" Kyung thought about the question for a long moment. Because that's what humans do. They see people in trouble and they help, no matter what it costs them. It was a simple answer to a complex question. But sometimes, the simplest answers were the most profound. The 3 human ships pulled away from the dying research vessel with their precious cargo of 847 rescued scientists. But Captain Ji-ho knew their troubles were far from over. His fleet was damaged, overloaded, and dangerously close to the black hole that had just claimed Harmony's edge. "Dr. Mina, what's our situation?" he called out as alarms rang throughout Soul's Fury. The physicist checked her instruments with growing concern. "Captain, we waited too long. We're still being pulled toward the black hole. Our engines are running at 93% efficiency due to radiation damage. Can we break free?" "Unknown, sir. The calculations are very close." On Busan Rising, Captain Woojin faced an even worse situation. His ship had taken the most damage during the evacuation, and now his engines were failing just when he needed them most. "Engineering report," he called to Nari. "Sir, we've lost engine pod 3 completely. Pod 2 is running at 60% power. We're not going to make it out of the gravity well with our current thrust." Woojin studied the tactical display showing his ship's trajectory. The numbers were clear. Busan Rising was going to be pulled back toward the black hole unless something changed quickly. "Captain Minji," he called over the fleet communication channel, "I need you to take our evacuees." On Daigu's hammer, Captain Minji understood immediately what Woojin was suggesting. "Negative. We're not leaving you behind." "Captain, my ship can't escape the gravity well. Yours can. Take our people and go." "Woojin, we've been friends since the academy. I'm not abandoning you now." Captain Ji-ho listened to the exchange between his captains and made a command decision. "All ships, this is Ji-ho. We're going home together or not at all. Minji, move your ship alongside Busan Rising. We're going to link our engines." It was an insane plan. Linking ships in a gravity well was dangerous under normal circumstances. Attempting it while being pulled toward a black hole was beyond reckless. "Sir," Dr. Mina protested, "linking our engines will put additional stress on our damaged systems. We could lose all 3 ships." "Dr. Mina, we already have all 3 ships. The question is whether we keep them or lose them." Throughout the human fleet, crew members worked frantically to prepare for the engine linkage. It was a maneuver they had practiced in training but never attempted under combat conditions. Engineer Nari pushed her damaged engines beyond their safe limits. "Captain, if we try to link engines now, the additional stress could cause a cascade, failure. And if we don't try, we definitely fall into the black hole," Woojin replied. "I'll take possibly over definitely any day." On Soul's Fury, Captain Kyung watched the human crew prepare for their desperate maneuver. As a Thessian, she had been trained to calculate risks carefully and choose the safest option. The human approach to problem-solving still amazed her. "Captain Ji-ho," she said, "perhaps some of us should transfer to your ship to reduce the load on the damaged vessels." "Captain Kyung, we have room for everyone. No one gets transferred and no one gets left behind. But the mathematics show what's probable. Humans specialize in making the improbable happen." The three ships moved into formation with deadly precision. Sol's Fury took the center position, with Busan rising and Daigu's hammer moving alongside. Magnetic docking clamps extended between the vessels, creating a temporary link that would allow them to share engine power. All ships, engine linkage in 30 seconds, Jiho announced. This is going to be rough. Admiral Veltara watched the human maneuver from the Coalition monitoring station with a mixture of admiration and horror. Commander Zenth, are they actually attempting to link 3 damaged ships while escaping from a black hole? Yes, Admiral. It appears they are attempting the impossible again. And their chances of success? Dr. Thurian checked his calculations. Mathematically, Admiral, their chances are approximately 3%. But they're going to try anyway, Veltara observed. Humans always try anyway, Zenth replied. The engine linkage engaged with a series of mechanical clanks that echoed through all 3 ships. Suddenly, the damaged Busan Rising had access to the engine power of its sister ships, but the additional stress immediately showed its effects. Hull stress approaching critical levels, reported the damage control officer aboard Sol's Fury. Engine. Temperatures rising beyond safe limits, added Engineer Nari from Busan Rising. Magnetic clamps holding but barely, called Captain Minji from Daigu's hammer. The linked ships began their escape from the black hole's gravity well. Their combined engines burned at maximum power, fighting against forces that could crush planets. The hulls groaned under stress that would have destroyed any other vessels. Dr. Mina, are we gaining distance? Captain Jiho asked. Slowly, sir. Very slowly. We're moving away from the event horizon, but at this rate, it will take hours to reach safe distance. How long can the engines maintain this power level? Unknown, Captain. We're in uncharted territory. As if to emphasize her point, an explosion echoed through Busan Rising. Captain Wu Jin felt his ship shudder as emergency systems activated throughout the vessel. Nari, report, he called. Engine pod 2 just failed completely, sir. We're down to 1 functional engine. The linked ships continued their desperate escape while damage accumulated throughout the fleet. Hull plates buckled under stress. Emergency bulkheads sealed off damaged sections. The life support systems worked overtime to maintain breathable atmosphere for nearly 1,000 people. In the medical bay of Sol's Fury, Dr. Hexen worked alongside human medic Jisoo to treat the crew members who had been exposed to radiation. During the rescue, 3 humans were dying from exposure levels that would have killed any other species instantly. How are they still conscious? Dr. Hexen asked, as he watched the humans continue to function despite radiation poisoning. Humans are tough, Jisoo replied simply. We don't die easy. The medical team did everything they could, but the radiation exposure was too severe. Over the next hour, 3 human crew members died from injuries sustained while saving alien lives. They died knowing that 847 people were alive because of their sacrifice. Captain Jiho stood in the medical bay, looking down at the bodies of his fallen crew members. These were people who had volunteered for a mission that everyone knew was suicidal. They had given their lives so that strangers from other worlds could go home to their families. Captain, Dr. Mina called over the communicator, we're approaching the edge of the gravity well. We should be able to break free in another hour. Acknowledged, Jiho replied. Continue current course. As the human fleet slowly fought its way out of the black hole's grip, word of their rescue mission spread throughout the galaxy. The impossible had become reality. Humans had saved 847 people from certain death at the cost of 3 of their own lives and massive damage to their ships. But for the humans, the mission was not yet complete. They still had to get everyone home safely. All ships, this is Captain Jiho, he announced over the fleet communication channel. We have broken free of the gravity well. Set course for Coalition Station Alpha. We're going home. The 3 battered ships, still linked together for mutual support, began their long journey back to civilization. Behind them, The black hole continued its ancient dance through space, having claimed one research vessel but been denied the lives of those who sailed in her. In the cargo bay of Soul's Fury, Captain Kyung sat with some of her rescued crew members. They were alive because humans had decided that impossible was just another word for challenging. "Captain," asked young Velox, "why did they risk everything to save us?" Kyung thought about the question for a long moment. "Because that's what humans do. They see people in trouble and they help, no matter what it costs them." It was a simple answer to a complex question. But sometimes, the simplest answers were the most profound. 3 days later, the Coalition fleet arrived at the rendezvous coordinates to find something unprecedented in galactic history. 3 battered human warships, still linked together by emergency docking clamps, carrying 847 rescued scientists from a dozen different worlds. Admiral Veltara stood on the bridge of her flagship, staring at the tactical display in amazement. "Commander Zenth, confirm those life sign readings." "Confirmed, Admiral. All 847 crew members from Harmony's Edge are alive and aboard the human vessels." Dr. Thurian approached with his medical scanner, shaking his head in disbelief. "Admiral, I've been monitoring the human ships since they escaped the black hole. Their life support systems are running at twice normal capacity. By all calculations, those ships should have suffered catastrophic failure hours ago." "And yet they didn't," Veltara observed. "The humans seem to have a talent for making impossible things work." As the Coalition medical ships began treating the rescued scientists, stories of the human rescue operation spread throughout the fleet. The aliens who had been saved could not stop talking about what they had witnessed. Dr. Yunwoo, a Centauri physicist, found himself in the Coalition medical bay next to Commander Zenth. "Commander, I need to tell you what those humans did. They didn't just save us despite the danger, they saved us because of it." "Explain," Zenth requested. "When our ship was trapped by the black hole, every other species in the galaxy calculated that rescue was impossible. The humans looked at the same data and saw it as a challenge. They used the black hole itself as part of their rescue plan." Dr. Yunwoo paused, trying to find words for what he had experienced. "They flew through debris fields at impossible speeds. They linked their ships together while escaping from a gravity well. They cut through solid metal barriers to reach trapped people. And they did it all as if it were routine." On Soul's Fury, Captain Jiho met with Admiral Veltara as the Coalition began transferring the rescued scientists to proper medical facilities. The human captain looked exhausted, but satisfied. "Captain Jiho," Veltara began, "I must confess that when you volunteered for this mission, I expected to be attending your memorial service. Instead, I find myself witnessing the most successful rescue operation in Coalition history. Admiral, my crew did what any human crew would do. We saw people in trouble, and we helped them. Captain, most species would have declared the mission impossible and not attempted it at all." Jiho smiled tiredly. "Admiral, humans have a different relationship with the word impossible. We treat it as a suggestion rather than a fact." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Captain Kyung, who had requested permission to address the Coalition command staff. The Thessian scientist had spent 3 days observing human crew members as they cared for the rescued scientists. "Admiral Veltara," she began, "I feel compelled to share my observations about the human rescue operation." "Please proceed, Captain." "When we were first trapped, I studied human military doctrine to understand what kind of rescue we might expect. Human battle reports contain frequent references to acceptable losses and tactical sacrifices." Kyung paused, choosing her words carefully. "I expected the humans to attempt a partial evacuation, saving perhaps 100 people at the cost of many human lives. Instead, they saved everyone while losing only 3 of their own crew members." "The humans were simply more efficient than you expected," suggested Commander Zenth. "No, Commander. They were more human than I expected." Admiral Veltara leaned forward. Explain. The phrase acceptable losses appears in human military reports, but it refers to equipment and resources, not people. Humans consider the loss of any person to be unacceptable if it can be prevented. Captain Kyung pulled out a datapad with her observations. During the evacuation, I watched human crew members risk their lives repeatedly to save scientific equipment, not because the equipment was valuable, but because it represented years of work by the scientists they were rescuing. They saved your research data? Dr. Thurian asked in surprise. All of it. Every experiment, every discovery, every personal item that my crew valued. The humans treated our work as if it were their own. On Busan Rising, engineer Nari was being interviewed by coalition investigators who wanted to understand how the human ships had survived their ordeal. The damaged destroyer was barely holding together, but it had successfully transported 283 rescued scientists to safety. Engineer Nari, asked the Kelvari investigator, your engine modifications during the rescue operation violated numerous safety protocols. How did you justify taking such risks? Nari looked up from the engine components she was replacing. Investigator, safety protocols exist to protect people under normal circumstances. When people are going to die anyway, safety protocols become less important than results. But you could have killed everyone with your modifications. Maybe. But doing nothing would have definitely killed everyone. Humans prefer maybe over definitely. The investigator made notes on his datapad. This approach to problem-solving seems highly dangerous. It is dangerous, Nari agreed. But sometimes dangerous is the only way to save lives. As the coalition fleet prepared to escort the human ships to a repair facility, news of the rescue operation spread throughout civilized space. The story became more incredible with each telling. Humans had used a black hole as a slingshot. They had evacuated 847 people in 12 minutes. They had linked damaged ships together while escaping from a gravity well. But the most important part of the story was simpler than all the technical details. When 847 people needed help, humans had volunteered to provide it. No questions asked. No conditions attached. No acceptable losses calculated. Admiral Veltara called a meeting of the Coalition High Command to discuss the implications of the human rescue operation. Representatives from 12 species gathered to review the mission, reports, and consider their response. The humans have demonstrated capabilities we did not know they possessed, she began. More importantly, they have demonstrated values that we should emulate. The Thessian representative raised a concern. Admiral, human rescue methods are extremely dangerous. If we adopt their techniques, we could lose rescue teams attempting impossible missions. And if we don't adopt their techniques, countered the Centauri representative, we will continue to abandon people who could have been saved. After hours of debate, the Coalition High Command reached a unanimous decision. They would establish new rescue protocols incorporating human techniques and philosophy. The new emergency response doctrine would include a simple principle. When lives are at stake, impossible is just another word for challenging. 6 months later, Commander Huan received the Coalition's highest honor for valor at a ceremony attended by representatives from 47 different worlds. But the real recognition came from the families of the 847 people who had been saved. They called the humans the ones who come when others cannot. It became a title of respect throughout the galaxy, used whenever people spoke of those who risked everything to help strangers. Captain Jiho stood on the observation deck of the repaired Soul's Fury, looking out at the stars. His ship had been rebuilt and upgraded with new technology developed from lessons learned during the rescue mission. But the most important thing had not changed. Captain, called Dr. Mina as she approached, we've received another distress signal. A cargo ship with 200 people aboard is trapped in an asteroid field. The Coalition estimates it would take 18 hours for their ships to reach them. How long for us? Jiho asked. 6 hours, sir. But we would have to navigate through the asteroid field at dangerous speeds. Jiho smiled as he headed for the bridge. Dr. Mina, Dangerous speeds are the only kind of speeds humans know. Signal the fleet. We have people to save. As Soul's Fury and her escorts prepared for another impossible rescue mission, Captain Kyung sat in her new laboratory aboard Coalition Station Alpha. She was analyzing data from her rescued research when a young Thessian student approached. "Professor, I've been reading about the human rescue operation. The technical reports say what they did was impossible." Kyung looked up from her work and smiled. "Young scholar, let me teach you the most important lesson I learned from humans. Impossible is not a scientific fact. It's just the starting point for human problem-solving." Throughout the galaxy, the story of the Harmony's Edge rescue became legend. It was told to children as a bedtime story about heroes who sailed between the stars. It was studied by military academies as an example of how determination could overcome impossible odds. But for the humans, it was just Tuesday. Because when people needed help, humans answered the call. They always had, and they always would. That was what made them human.